Alright everybody, in this video I'm going to show you what you're going to be doing with this assignment. Alright, so I'm going to split this up into two parts. The first part is going to be, well, first let me show you what it looks like. So this is what you guys are making. It's going to be a web page. It's going to have a responsive grid layout. It's going to use the new HTML5 tags that we're learning, and it's going to have two nav bars, a horizontal nav bar like this and a vertical nav bar like this. Alright, and it's going to have a couple other things that we'll talk about, and it's going to be split into two parts. So in this video I'm going to show you the two parts. Alright, let's see. And so here, let me show you. This is the grid layout. So here you see you're going to have, one row here that has one div in it. Two rows with one row with two divs and one row with one div. So a header, the main section, and the footer. Alright, so we're going to start by getting all of the responsive grid layout styles and putting them into the CSS. Alright, so I just happen to have them ready to go. Alright, so here we go. So here I will show you what we have. I want you to do this too. Having you're going to have like a header, kind of comment header for each group of CSS. So this group is all the responsive grid stuff. You got your widths, you got the floating one, you got the row after that stops things from floating next to the row, and then you got the box sizing, which adds the padding and the border width into the width of stuff. Alright, so you got this. So now let's make our layout. That should be pretty easy. Alright. Okay. So we're gonna use divs for the rows. Div, class, row. Alright. And so we're gonna have three rows. The header, the main part, and the footer. Alright, so let me just copy that. 1, 2. Alright, so here's our three rows. The first row is going to have one div in it, and it's going to be 12 columns wide. Alright, so let's add that. And we're going to change it in a second, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so here is our first row, and let me come down here and let me add like a border real quick so you can see what's going on. Alright, so there's our first column div. Now, since this is going to be a header, instead of using divs, we could just use header here. Header. And it'll work just fine. Alright, so that's the only change I'm doing. Instead of this being a div, it's a header. Alright, and let's see, inside here, we're going to have an H1 and we're going to have some navigation. So let's just add an H1 for now. I'm going to name my fake website Topelpedia. Or Topel, yeah, that sounds good. And then, alright, so that's our first row. And then our second row, we're not going to worry about today. We're just going to worry about the first row. So we're going to leave these other rows like this for now. Actually, we could do this bottom row. What the hell? So the bottom row is going to be very similar to the top row. So let me just copy that. So instead of a header, this is going to be a footer. It's still going to be a col 12. Oops. And then in here, we're not going to use an H1. We're just going to use a paragraph, and it's going to say, like, just our copyright. So, copyright, and then the copyright symbol looks like this, @copy, semicolon. And then our fake name, or I guess the year 2020, Topelpedia Inc. Very fancy. Alright, so there's the bottom row. And this middle row we're not going to worry about today. That'll be in part 2. Alright. Alright. So before we get moving on this first nav bar we're going to do, let's take this entire 3 rows and stick them in a containing div so we can center it. Alright? So normally we would do this. We would add a div like ID equal to container or something. But instead, let's use the main element like this. I'm going to stick this here, tab our rows over, and then down here, so we're going to add a new section, container, main, width 80%, margin auto. So that'll like give our layout a width and center it. Alright, nice and pretty like that. Alright, and now we're going to add our navigation. So that's going to be in our header under our H1. So we're going to use nav tags. And in these nav tags, we're going to have a list of links. That's how we're going to do it. Alright. So, let's see, I have a list of links ready to go. Okay. So, I'll paste it in here. And, hold on a second. Paste it in here. Okay, well, let me just fix this. Okay. So here's our list of links. So what this is an unordered list of 4 LIs. Each LI has a link in it. They're not pointing to anything. I'll get rid of this for now. They're not pointing to anything. They're using hashtags because they're dummy links. And I'm using home, news, history, and about. Alright, you can use, I suggest you all use home, and then the other 3 can be whatever. Alright, so here's what it looks like over here before we style it. Alright, what we want to do is make this a horizontal nav bar. Alright, and then, so since we're going to end up having 2 nav bars on this page, we're going to have a horizontal nav bar and a vertical nav bar. So in order to style them differently, we're going to stick them, we're going to give the nav for each will have its own class. So we're going to use class HORZ, alright, for horizontal. Alright, and then, so let's start styling this first nav bar. Alright, so then down here, okay, so here's the first thing. Alright, so I put in, this is our main little comment header, so we know what we're doing. This is the horizontal navigation. Our first rule, we're going to select the nav, so all unordered lists in the nav. Of course, it's just the one. And what this does is, I'm going to show you what each of these does. List style type, none, removes the bullets. So there's no more bullets. Margin 0, padding 0, that gets rid of margin and padding, so there's not extra weird space. Overflow hidden, if we get rid of that, nothing really happens right now, but that's going to be, we need that for later. And then we give the whole list a gray background and a border. So there's a black border around it. Alright. Alright, so now we want to get all the LIs to be placed next to each other. So let's add this rule. Alright, So dot HORZ space LI. So this will select all the LIs in that nav. And we're going to use float left so they're all next to each other. Here they are, all next to each other. All right. Beautiful. And then, here's what we're going to do next. We are going to style the hyperlinks inside there. So let's see. Okay. And so this will be, so we're looking to style all the hyperlinks in an LI in that nav. All right, so display block, that makes the whole thing clickable. Padding adds padding to the, the top and the bottom. And text decoration gets rid of the underline. And this sets the color to purple. So you might not be able to tell, but that's purple now. A color, a version of purple. All right, so that looks good. All right. Next, what we're going to do is style it so that when you mouse over it, some colors change. Nothing too difficult. So it's just this same selector, only we're using that :hover. So it'll select all the A's inside an LI, inside that nav when you mouse over it. And we're changing the background color to a dark gray and the color of the text to white. So when you mouse over it, this happens. All right, great, beautiful. All right. And then I left this guy off. So I forgot a little comment here. Lines up LI elements next to each other. All right. So here we have our nav bar. What next? Okay. So usually when you have a nav bar like this, or not usually, a lot of the times, you might want to highlight one of these permanently to show us what page we're on. So let's pretend that we're on the history page, right? So here's what we would do. We would come down here and we would find the AI, the hyperlink for history, and give it a class. Class equals, and I'm just going to use current for like the current page. Okay? And then over here we can style that. Let's see, I got that right here. Okay. All right, so inside the nav bar, using the current class, so that's so inside here, find anything that has that class, and that would be this guy. And we're going to set the background color to be purple and the text color to white. So this is what it looks like. So say this is the history page, this is going to be highlighted. And if I mouse over it, it can turn gray. All right. But there you go. Nice. All right. So in case you're wondering what this overflow hidden does, watch what happens when I get rid of it. When I get rid of it, up here, since all these guys are floating inside of it, it thinks it's 0 pixels tall, so it doesn't show the background. And this overflow hidden prevents that from happening. All right, so that's what that does. Let's see. Also, I screwed up the copyright, so it should be ampersand. Copy. There we go. That's better. And let's add a. Right now, I'm going to add a Google font, just so it looks a bit better. Google font, and let me add that to the body. All right, so I'm going to have another main header here. Just call it other styles. All right, so body, font family Anton, and That looks pretty good.